I'm Steve, K5ATA, and this is the dessert episode of the Ham Radio Buffet. Today we have Jason, KM4ACK. Wave hey.
Hey, guys.
And today on the buffet for dessert, we are having raspberry pie. So, a couple things we want to go ahead and knock out first. If y'all would hit that subscribe button below, hit the like button. I do have a link down there for my Patreon page. If y'all feel so inclined to help us out, that all the money from my Patreon page goes directly to support my middle school ham radio club. So any support you can give will definitely help, especially this year, because apparently our governor says we don't need money this year. Also, the Amazon affiliate store link, a lot of the stuff that we have in the shack and a lot of the stuff that's at the school radio club, you can find down there. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does get us an extra couple cents every time, and those cents add up to a Baofeng eventually. Couple little cool things. My POTA stickers came. Some of the stuff on the parksontheair.com/shop website is up and running, so if you're looking for gear to tell everybody that you are POTA-able, that may be the way to do it. And with that, we're not going to take too much time kind of hammering out stuff because we've got a busy night on the buffet tonight with Jason. So, Jason, give us a minute and kind of talk about your channel, what you like to do and whatnot, and then we'll start diving into some pie.
All right. Thanks, Ben. And I appreciate you having me on tonight. So really what I like to do is I like to introduce guys that want to get into doing digital modes in the field. I like to introduce them to the Raspberry Pi and kind of help them get up and running. Do a little bit more on the channel. We'll do some POTA videos and some other type of videos, but a large portion of my channel is focused around the Raspberry Pi and kind of helping everybody get up and running with it.
Okay. How long have you been into Raspberry Pi stuff?
Since about the time Windows 10 came out.
Okay, so well, it's Windows, so there's no telling. I know enough about Raspberry Pi to get myself in trouble. I have some kids at school that are in the middle of some non-amateur radio projects with the Pi. One's building like a retro game console and stuff like that. Well, that was before we got coroned out. But I'm looking for ways to get these into hands of kids and, get them some experience with doing some of that. And a couple weeks ago, we had a discussion and people were talking about, hey, what are some, I need to learn more about Raspberry Pi. How do I get started? So maybe you can kind of talk to us about what it takes to get started with it and what kind of stuff we can do with it.
Well, to get started, you're going to need the Pi. You're obviously going to need a radio, and then you're going to need a way to interface the two of them together. And that depends really on the radio. So if you got something like a ICOM 7300, it's got the sound card built in. It's got cat control built in all over one cable. So you just need that cable to go between the Pi and the 7300. If you get into a radio like the Yaesu 891 or 857, neither one of those have a sound card built into it. So you're going to have to come up with some sort of sound card to go between the Raspberry Pi and the radio. That could be something as inexpensive as an $8 USB sound card, or you could spend a lot more money and go to something like a Signalink. Signalink is probably a little bit easier to get set up and going with right out of the gate, but I've actually pulled all of my Signalinks out of service, and I'm now using strictly the little $8, I think it's a Sombrent sound card that I'm using. But once you get that, then you just got to get the Raspbian OS, which is the official operating system for the Pi. You get that loaded up, and then you've got a couple of different ways. On my page, on my channel, I've got a 3-part video series that kind of goes through step by step how to build it if you want to do it all manually. And then over the course of this year, I've been working on something called Build-A-Pi. And Build-A-Pi basically is one line of code that you need to run, and then it will give you the option to install a lot of different ham radio-based applications, and it takes care of the installation for that for you. So it's pretty much push a button and watch it work.
Okay. We're already getting some questions in the house. Steve, temporary offline, asked, "How are you hooking that sound card to the 891?" I don't know if he's talking to you or the chat's rolling tonight. So
Yeah, that's okay. So there is a guy on eBay. Trying to think of his screen name, Hamdapter, and he sells a cable, two 3.5 millimeter on one end and the 6-pin mini DIN on the other. So you plug up to the USB sound card into the back of the, and then go to the back of the radio. And I think that cable runs $15, maybe 20.
okay, and you said he's on eBay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to write these things down. If not, I'll go back through and we'll try to post some links to these things in the description. We are going to take a second. I'm going to roll back up and see who we've got in the chat. Make sure we hadn't missed any questions because we started and the chat's rolling. So let's see. All right, we got Philip, Craig, Oklahoma Ham Radio. What's up, OHR? Apes in the house. Let's see.
Hey, I see one here. Ape asked if I got the USB problem figured out, and no, I haven't so far.
So
that was a. So there's an interference problem that I ran into on field day with my GPS when I plugged in the USB data thumb drive. My GPS went away, and I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. So I kind of figured out pretty quick that it was the USB drive creating the problem. So I just pulled it out for field day. I didn't really need it. And the GPS went back to working fine. Well, when I got back to the shack Monday, I started doing a bit more investigating. And it turns out that there's something to do with USB 3 and the way it communicates. It actually creates enough RFI to jam the GPS signal.
Okay. All right. So something we're still working on then. I did notice you're wearing the field day shirt. So what did you do for field day out of curiosity? No.
This year was a little different than normal. We usually run a full 24-hour field day, but our club elected not to. So I did field day with my club until about dark that evening. And then on Sunday, I came home and slept. And then on Sunday, I visited with another club here in my area.
Yeah, I had hopes of getting our school club. We just started a school club this year, and I had hopes of getting them out there, but we just gatherings in my town are just not allowed. Weren't allowed yet, so we'll have to find another excuse to go out to a field and play radio. Let's see, we got K4ACK. He's in the house. Let's see, I got my hard antenna up. Yeah, we're hoping Ape will dance for us since he didn't dance for my video yesterday like he was supposed to. You can see all 8 gigs. I don't think I'm missing any. All right, so what like you said, it automatically installs a bunch of different applications. What kind of applications is it installing when they run that line of code?
So it's going to give you all of your basics. It's going to give you Direwolf, which is a software TNC. It's going to give you PAT, which is a WinLink application for Linux. And really, PAT was kind of what started my YouTube channel, because when I started working with a Pi, I couldn't find any videos to help me get it installed and configured. So if you go back far enough in my channel, that's actually some of the first videos I did. But Pat WinLink, you're going to get JS8 Call. You're going to get WSJTX, which is FT8 and Whisper software. You're going to get the RDOT modem. You're going to get a really cool display. It's kind of an information graphic called Conky that just lives on the desktop. It gives you local time, Zulu time, CPU usage. It'll tell you a few of the apps that are running or not running. They change colors when they're running. And that might not be super useful for something like JS8 Call, but when it's something like rig control that runs in the background, normally you would have no visual indicator that that's running. So Conky gives you that visual indicator. Let's see, we've also got Yak, which is for APRS. We've got Exaster that can be installed. Right off, I can't think of any more right off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. So I like to do things, or at least look at things. I always tend to look at them through a lens of somebody who's brand new, or in my case, a lot of times they're between 11 and 14 as far as age goes. So it's like taking a Raspberry Pi portable. Okay, if you're plugging it into, just kind of step people through how to. I mean, if they're not lugging a monitor with them, so
No. Okay, and that's one thing that I did. I was actually trying to get over to my GitHub page so I could scroll down. It'll tell you on GitHub exactly what all is available. So no, we run all of the Raspberry Pis, or I run mine headless in the field. So there is absolutely nothing connected to the Raspberry Pi other than a power cable. Well, GPS sound card and the power cable. Once the Pi boots up, it generates its own hotspot. So it looks like your home router. So then I can take another device. Usually I'm using a tablet, but in a pinch, I've actually used my cell phone. I connect it over Wi Fi to the Raspberry Pi, and then I use some software called VNC, which will display the Pi's desktop on my tablet. So then I can control the Pi right from the tablet.
okay. Let's see. We've got Don Gibbs.
It sounds more complicated than it is.
And it does. And like I said, especially for somebody who's, that's kind of the whole purpose of what I'm calling the ham radio buffet, is for people to get a taste of a lot of different things and figure out what they might want to go get a little bit more of and try out. So Don Gibbs, KK4ACK is asking, have you ever experimented with any other OS other than Raspbian?
No, I haven't. I started with it and kind of stuck with it.
All right, let's see. Glenn Strecker, he's down in Louisiana. I met Glenn a few weeks ago. In fact, the reason I didn't get to do field day this year is I was down at my mom's, and that's where I met Glenn. He's got some DRATS stuff that's kind of impressive. Let's see. I just got my Pi 4 working with Build a Pi. I noticed that if Conky latches onto the GPS to get the grid square, YAAC or Zaster won't pick it up.
That should not be the case. Glenn, if you want to post that over on GitHub, it's github.com/KM4ACK, and just open up an issue ticket. I can go back and forth with you, and we can see if we can get that resolved.
And I'll put that link down in the description afterwards, Glenn. So, and y'all feel free to ask any questions you want. That's kind of the way I run this. Is a lot of it's just Q&A. People want to find something out, we'll go from there. VNC. I'm trying to think. Andy says VNC. I use it to control 6 PCs on this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, back to the hotspot for a second. One of the things that was difficult for a lot of people with the hotspot is it's another one of those things that runs in the background. And you have to know which directories and which files to go look in to be able to change things. I kind of got fed up with that and tried to make it easier. So I actually wrote an application called Hotspot Tools. And Hotspot Tools brings up a GUI interface, shows you what information it is, and you can actually push buttons to change things that you need to change. So you don't have to go digging around in the terminal window to figure it out.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I had a question I was going to ask you, and then I forgot. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. K6ARK, pros and cons of real-time clock module versus GPS.
That's kind of personal. A lot of people want to go different ways. The real-time clock will give you instant access. As soon as that Pi boots up, you've got the clock up and running. The GPS is great because it gives you your grid square. You can't get your grid square from a real-time clock. But if you're indoors, especially if you're in any kind of metal building, you may not be able to pick up a GPS signal. So that can present its own problem. Some guys actually run both. I don't. I just run the GPS.
Okay. And I'm trying to keep up with the questions, but they're kind of hard to stand out when that many folks. Chuck. Yes. Nope, that's not Chuck. That's who was that? It just moved. Oklahoma Ham Radio. Do you have a GPS that you would recommend to use with the
Yeah. Up until field day, yes.
Pi?
Right now, I don't want to say. I'm actually experimenting with another GPS. It's a little bit more expensive. The original one I've been using for the last year or so was only like 12 or 13 bucks. This one's about double that. But I'm still experimenting to see if it's got the same interference issues when I'm using USB 3.
Okay, and scrolling back
There,
up. Oh, go ahead.
there will be something coming out on the channel when I do finally get to something. A lot of guys I've been talking to, they say, well, take a USB cable that's 3 feet long and get your GPS away from the Raspberry Pi. The problem with that is you're liable to introduce basically RFI into the system because you're putting a 3-foot antenna out there and feeding it right into a USB port. And I've run into that before in my Jeep.
Okay, and Don Gibbs is running Ubuntu on his Pi. Loves it. See, and that's like I said, I've played with just enough that I can make it turn on and go. In fact, for a while we were monitoring some weather stuff, which brings me to so what are some of the other uses that, like, I was scrolling through your channel, and like you've got stuff like weather and weather apps and stuff like that. What are some other things that folks maybe not are that are in the image that you have, but some other tools that maybe, and they may be in the image that you have, but what are some of the other tools like weather and stuff like that folks can?
A lot of guys are into SDRs, the inexpensive ones that you can pick up, and then they got some more expensive ones. I don't have anything on my image for SDR, but SDR is another very popular use for the Raspberry Pi. A digipeater, that is a huge use for the Raspberry Pi, is building a full-blown digipeater with it. Or you can scale that back just a little bit and just build an iGate with the Raspberry Pi. So that's another one. And a lot of guys are using it to build WinLink gateways. So you're basically a WinLink server at that point that other people can call into over RF to be able to check their WinLink mail.
And so for the new folks who don't know what a digipeater and an iGate is, you mind kind of going into that for a sec?
Okay, so that's APRS, and I am by no means an expert on this, but APRS, if you've got an APRS radio, it sends out a packet that contains information, and that could be a message, that could be just your location, that could be your location and a comment, and that would get picked up by a digipeater, and a digipeater is really nothing more than a simplex repeater to kind of boil it down to the very basics. So it hears the packet and then it turns around and repeats that packet back out for other APRS radios in the area to hear.
Okay, and let's see, Josh, Ham Radio Crash Course, is in the house, and he says QSSTV is my favorite. So
that is on Build-A-Pi.
Okay, and what is that? Just to
Slow Scan TV, and Josh would be more of an expert than that than I am. I had some guys that wanted me to add that to the build, and it was a little bit more. It wasn't as straightforward as just saying install this. You did have to build it from source, which kind of scares off a lot of new guys. So I went in and put that in Build-A-Pi since it was something that required being built from source.
So yeah, and there's in fact, Josh has a premiere after this stream, so at the end of it, we'll throw his link in there, and I know he's got some videos over there on like catching weather and stuff from satellite, stuff like that on there. So
I think he actually did a video on Slow Scan TV too, if I remember right.
By now, he's done a video on just about everything. So I saw some of the old ones of like him eating Korean food and stuff like that even. All right, Glenn Strecker, I really appreciate the amount of work you put in, Jason, to making the Pi so useful. He runs a DRAT Ratflector on a Pi. So, and he does. I've been in his shack just a couple weeks ago, and he's got it up and running, and that Ratflector, that was a whole new thing to me. So
I think that's D-Star, isn't it?
It is. It's well, DRATS is its own, and I'm actually putting a video together that I did with him on what DRATS is, but it's like an emergency communications kind of thing. Using it's different. It's very useful, but yeah, there's a lot to it. I went in expecting to kind of do a quick little video on, here's what this is, and I left with more questions than I came in, which is kind of what I like. I mean, that's kind of the whole purpose of having you on tonight. I'm learning as much as everybody else in here. So let's see. I had a packet BBS and a digipeater running with a Pi and a Win. Okay. SDR receiver and G-Predict is great for satellite comms. RxOn. Okay, I was just talking about different tools, I guess, that they use there.
Speaking of G-Predict, when I rewrote Build-A-Pi for version 3.0, G-Predict got left out. That is coming up in the next minor release that should be out in probably a week to 10 days, if not sooner. It's already in the dev branch of GitHub.
And what is that?
G-Predict is satellite tracking. So the guys that are really into communicating with satellites, it gives you a map and you can pick and choose which satellites you want to track. And it'll give you a graphical representation on the screen of when they're going to make their pass, what the angles are, what the times are, what the frequencies are. It gives you a ton of information for satellites.
Okay, so I'm going to back up the truck a little bit to the VNC thing, because that's one of the things that I know. Obviously, if I'm going to try to get some Raspberry Pis into my students' hands and whatnot, I'm going to have a grasp on how that's going to work. And I've VNC'd some other stuff, but so from what you're saying, is it any Raspberry Pi? Is it just a 4? Is it a 3B that broadcasts its own hotspot? I mean, what's the...
Oh, wait a minute. Now, hotspot does not come stock on a Raspberry Pi. That's something that's part of my image.
Okay.
The VNC server comes stock on a Raspberry Pi. Then you just need to download the real VNC client.
Okay.
And if you just Google real VNC, you should come up with it.
And that's just hitting it by its IP address and whatnot, going in that way.
Correct. So if you're at home and it's on your Wi-Fi or plugged up to a Cat5 cable, and whatever you're trying to VNC in with is on that same network, you would just enter the Pi's IP address and you would be connected.
Okay.
Now, to be able to do that in the field is where you need the hotspot, because otherwise you could do it with, say, if you took a router to the field with you and connected the Pi up to the router, and then connected your tablet or laptop or whatever to the router as well, you would have a network that you could use. But to eliminate that router, what we do is we force the Raspberry Pi to basically become the router. And it puts out its own SSID, which is what you see when you walk into your home or your shack, and it, whatever name you've given your router, you can assign a name to the Raspberry Pi to give out when the hotspot is activated.
Okay, so I'm guessing that there's a hat or something you're putting on with an antenna on there for it, or
no? It's using the built-in Wi-Fi card that's already available to us in the Raspberry Pi.
Okay. All right.
So no, it's all software, no additional hardware. And I'm going to be putting together a video, hopefully sometime before the end of the month, kind of an overall view of the hotspot, because a lot of people just getting into it. I get a lot of emails with this specific question.
Yeah, because that's definitely going to be the route that we're going to go with my students. Is obviously they're not going to have. Well, technically I do have monitors, but they can't take them with them.
Right.
But that's what I kind of want to do, is try to get some of these guys so that they can take one to go, but and they can connect to that. You can do it with your phone, you said.
It's difficult because you've got a pretty small screen to work with.
That's okay. I can get some cheap Android tablets and whatnot. All right. Ham Radio Crash Course, can you explain the updating process?
The updating process for the individual applications or for the Build-A-Pi script itself?
I don't know. We might have to give him a minute to answer because last he said he was driving, so it might be a minute before he can type up his
If he's talking about the applications with Build-A-Pi 3, that was one of the things that I worked on when I did the rewrite for version 3. Versions 1 and 2 was only designed to be run one time and install everything for you. You really couldn't use it to keep your system up to date. Well, I found out that operators wanted the system to update for them instead of them having to manually do things. So I rewrote it, and starting with Build-A-Pi 3, there is a icon inside the Pi menu. You click on it, you hit Start to Scan. It's going to look at what you've got installed, what is the latest version, what needs an update, and basically you put checkboxes beside the applications and hit Next, and it will update everything. If he's talking about updating the actual Build-A-Pi script, there's a video coming out Friday on that. We're going to have to update anybody that's running 3.0.0 or 3.0.1 is going to have to update manually.
Okay, yeah, he posted and said he was talking about the apps. So
okay, yep, that's in starting with 3.0. It's all pretty much automated for you. You push a button in the menu system and put a check mark by what you want to update.
Okay. Smoking Ape, did he get the dual homing networks worked out?
I'm not sure what he's referring to there.
He may be talking about somebody up in the chat there. It's after getting Arch, maybe talking to Oklahoma Ham Radio. Josh said fantastic for the explanation on the updates there. Ape, are you talking to somebody in there? Or are you asking Jason about the dual homing networks? Because if you're asking Jason, we're Confucius. But all right, so you said, well, I've heard people say that they use the Raspberry Pi for their TNC and whatnot. Are you familiar with how to? I mean, the same kind of thing, I guess. You can use it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around. So I can take a Raspberry Pi in my vehicle and have APRS through my. Talk me. Well, you said you're not an expert on APRS. I'm just.
What? So, do you want to? Well, do you want to set up a APRS tracking station, or do you want to set up a mobile portable digipeater?
A mobile portable digipeater is what.
Okay. So you could use software like Direwolf, which is a software TNC. You don't have to have a hardware TNC. And then you could use something like Exaster or Yak to be the front end of the setup for you. Fire it up, connect it to a radio, and you could be a digipeater, but you couldn't gate anything to the internet unless you connected the Pi to the internet, maybe through your cell phone
hotspot, stuff like that. Okay.
Right.
All right, kind of not too dissimilar from the way I have to do DMR if I'm on the road or whatever. So,
if you wanted to do something with your students, if you got some students that are technicians.
Yeah, we had 25 kids get their license this last school year. So
you could set up, you could have them all try to set up at least an iGate and interface that to a radio. That'd be a cool little project that wouldn't be very expensive.
All right, so let's talk about expensive, because a lot of us, well, hams tend to be cheap anyway, and I'm a school teacher, so I have to be cheap. Cost-wise, obviously they just came out with the 4 not too long ago, the Raspberry Pi 4. The 3, is it? I mean, it's not terribly out of date. I've got 4 or 5 of these in the classroom.
The 3 is fine to use. The thing is, now the 2 gigabyte model 4 is just as cheap as a Pi 3 the last time I looked. Both of them are running about $35 for the board alone.
Okay, so if I'm looking at, let's see, so $35, and what else, as far as for newbie, what else do I need to get per kid or per person?
I would recommend getting a case. You're going to need an SD card, a micro SD card to go in it, and a power supply. That's the bare minimum that you're going to have to get the Pi to where you can use it.
Okay, and then
now that doesn't count interfacing it to the radio or sound cards or the radio itself or anything like that. That is just Raspberry Pi.
Okay. So we're gonna pray for a little bit of budget this year anyway, because that I heard today that for some reason in our governor's wonderful logic, he said, "Oh well, school teachers are going to have to do more schooling, but we're going to take money away from you for doing it." So I'm not sure how that's gonna. We're gonna do the best we can. Oh, here we go. Oklahoma hand ready to 3D print the cases, and I do have a 3D printer, so that's a good point. And
there you go.
I've got some filament, so they may be pink or something like that. I don't know what color filament I know I've got some gold, but I've got a glow in the dark filament. That'd be kind of cool. Love Jason's content. Thank you for being on. KC5TGT. Radios and more. It's the first time I've seen you in here. Welcome. And who else did I miss in here? Let's scroll back and see who I missed. It's here. Terry's here. Welcome. Got Don, Glenn. I think I saw Andy in here. Yep, Andy's in here. All right, so a lot of people, that just the fact that somebody brings up Raspberry Pi and your call sign is one that always gets thrown out. People are like, oh, got Raspberry Pi stuff you want to do, go see Jason's channel. Which by the way, K6ARK portable radio, thank you very much. You just helped us get a portion of a pie, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. But what you do more than just Pi stuff on your channel. So, what kind of other stuff do you have over there? And by the way, everybody, if you haven't already, the link to his channel is down below. Make sure that you click on it and subscribe to him. Jason's got some great stuff over there. So, but tell us a little bit more about some of the other stuff that you do over there.
Mainly anything to do with portable ops. And what got me into that, I live in a cul-de-sac. I've got other houses sitting on top of me practically, and I have almost a constant S8 noise level. And it's near impossible to work HF from home. Now, FT8, JS8 call, WinLink, I can get away with that, but any kind of voice modes are near impossible. And I've tried everything. I've watched Josh's video on trying to eliminate RFI. I think he even put toroids on his refrigerator in that video.
He gets a little into his
I'm going to have to bring him out to Tennessee and get him to chase down all this RFI in the neighborhood.
Make sure you plug your stuff back in. Otherwise, you'll have the wrath of the wife like him.
But because of that, I started years ago starting to go out and work portable. And the only reason that I know any of this, including anything about the Raspberry Pi, is only because I've made the mistake already. So I have crashed more Raspberry Pis than the vast majority of people out there. You gotta just try sometimes, and sometimes you don't know what the best way to go is, and you're going to make a mistake. But one of the great things about the Raspberry Pi is it uses that micro SD card for the hard drive. Now, they are coming out now with ways to boot it off of a USB device, a solid state device. But the micro SD card gives you such an easy way to swap to a new operating system or make a quick backup before you try to do something. And if you completely hose the thing up, it takes you about 3 hours to fix it. And if you're running Build-A-Pi, the fix is automated for you. After you get the operating system back on the SD card, it's one command, 10 minutes worth of questions, and it'll sit there and do everything for you.
Okay. So these things are pretty well indestructible as far as the board itself. It's just
I have yet to break one that wasn't physically abused.
You have not met my children yet. But okay, so step us through. I know that there are videos out there for how to put an image on there and stuff, but just give us the quick and ugly rundown. What are the basic steps because a lot of times people will sit in a chat or something, they'll be like, oh, I don't know, that might be too much, and they never go to that next step. So explain how easy that is to get an image off of your GitHub or wherever it's housed onto the
Well,
Pi?
you go to raspberrypi.org and download the actual operating system, the Raspbian OS.
Okay.
Once you've got that, you need to use some software. Balena Etcher is the one that I prefer. Balena will take the image that you downloaded and burn it to the SD card, and that's it. I mean, literally, that's as hard as it is. Um, you're ready to boot it up at that point if you've got a monitor, keyboard, and mouse connected. Now, if you want to do a bit more advanced, you're going to have to open up a folder while you've still got it on your Windows or your Mac machine and drop one text file in there that opens up SSH capabilities. It basically unlocks it. But for actually getting it to boot up, if you can hook up an HDMI monitor to it, man, it's quick and easy. Download it, burn it, and stick it in a Pi, and it's ready to boot.
All right, so just so we're getting folks the right information. By the way, Josh said he just got home, hence the reason he has complete sentences now. Wanted to say great work, Jason. Driving and typing on disc or on YouTube may not be the, especially in California. Wanted to say great work, Jason. You make getting the Pi up and running in the field very easy and saves us a lot of time. So there's some kudos from him. But all right, so what was I saying before I said that? It'll come back to me. All right, so as far as that, so basically you're just saying, and I've got one here. All they really need to get it on there is some kind of little USB adapter thing to plug the SD card into their PC, unless they've got a slot for it, obviously.
Yes.
And then, so time-wise for sticking that on there, I mean, you said 10 minutes of questions, and
to actually flash the image is probably 10 minutes. Then you got to get it booted up, and then you go to GitHub and you literally copy one line of code, open up a terminal window, paste it in, and yeah, it's less than 10 minutes. It's going to ask you for your call sign. Depending on which applications you install, it's going to ask for more information. So if you install Pat WinLink, it's going to want your grid square and your WinLink password up front. If you choose the GPS software, then wait a minute, I may be getting ahead of myself because that's actually something I'm writing into the next release. But you may have to choose your GPS device. So some very basic questions that it's just going to ask you, just so, because what's happening as Build-A-Pi runs, not only is it installing a lot of this software, it's configuring a lot of stuff behind the scenes for you. So you don't have to go in command line wise, say to the pat configure file to plug in your call sign, your password, and your grid square. So that's just done for you automatically when you run Build-A-Pi.
Okay, and so when they're going to VNC into it using, well, I know I can get those stupid Kindle. If I didn't say stupid, those amazingly useful Kindle Fire tablets that I can subvert and use on the Google Play Store and whatnot. So when they go there and they actually VNC into it, they're actually just going to see the desktop,
correct,
as you normally would on a monitor, and then I guess they slide up a keyboard to type on or whatever if they need to type.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You use your finger. Your finger becomes the mouse, so you can actually move the pointer around on the screen. And then when you need a keyboard, you open up the keyboard and type.
Sweet. Okay.
Now, if you want to go a step further than that, so let's say for field day, and I'm working all digital modes, I actually picked up a folding Bluetooth keyboard. So I want to use my tablet as the monitor, but I needed something that was a little easier to type for field day because field day moves pretty quick a lot of times. So I picked up a Bluetooth keyboard, connected it to the Pi, and I'm not having to use the keyboard on my tablet now.
Okay, that works. So I'm seeing nice options. I've been told by several people, Mike, that my POTA kit is a little too big. But I drive to my active. I mean, I take a camper. I can be big. But there are times where my daughter and I go out to do POTA activation stuff, and we're actually carrying the stuff out there. So, and that's one of the reasons I've never done any digital anything portable is I'm not lugging a. I mean, I just now started lugging wherever it is a little tablet for logging, just because I got tired of paper logging and coming back and typing it back in. But it sounds like the Raspberry Pi can solve all of those, and I can run all those things simultaneously and not kill it. I can run my logger program, and just like any other Linux thing, I can have multiple things running at a time.
Yes.
Sweet. So, all right, let's
yes.
check.
If you go back on my channel about maybe a year and a half ago, you'll see my old Go box. The Go box itself weighed, I think, just under 40 pounds. And the battery at the time weighed about another 35 pounds.
Yeah, well, I'm that dude that lugged an RV battery to a POTA activation once. So
I just got tired of grabbing that heavy thing and loading it into the Jeep every time. It was a pain. And I made up my mind I was going to downsize.
So what radio do you take when you operate portable? 7300 you mentioned earlier. Is that your?
No, I actually don't own a 7300. I'm running the Yaesu 891.
Okay.
So, and I've got a couple of 857s that I still love, even though they're getting long in the tooth. So I can go either way with them.
And they get a little hate every now and then, but if they still work, they still work. It's better than my 897 sitting up there that doesn't work. So, let's see. I remember finding similar issue on OS2 back in the day. Showing your age, OHR. But all right, let's see if we got any other questions up in here. You guys, throw them out there if you have any questions on how to do anything with Pi and whatnot. This is your time. Somebody just said they had the jet. Who was that? Philip has to take a tech support call. Well, you're probably gone, but appreciate you being here, Philip.
I've got to say, Don Gibbs, KK4ACK, I hate that Huntsville got canceled this year. I was ready to go again.
Yeah, we were ready to go for the first time. It's kind of funny. I only live a few hours from there, but we hadn't been. And, my daughter got licensed in December and then upgraded to general in January. And she was wanting to go. I mean, she was pumped. We were going to, my wife she'll go anyway because she likes the stupid little jewelry booths and stuff they have at those things. But I was like, yeah, we were going to haul the camper out there, and several of the YouTuber guys were going to try to go out there and do some stuff. And then, in fact, somebody, who was it? Might have been Ham Radio 2.0 had somebody from like Gigaparts on there, and they said, oh yeah, we just talked to them. Hamfest is happening. And then like 3 days later, it's like, maybe not.
So, well, I think Jason and Hush and several of them were talking about, since that was the last big Hamfest, it was, everything else got canceled outside of, what's the one in Florida?
Hamcation, yeah.
Yeah, everything else was canceled. So I think those guys were even talking about coming out to Huntsville this year.
We had been talking. Several of us were going to get out there and try to get out there but that didn't happen. So Don said he's sorry it canceled too. But yeah, that's one of the things we talked about is whoever has the next Hamfest that happens is going to be huge. I mean, I thought about it. I've got 20 acres. I'd have my own little Hamfest and see how many people show up. But alrighty. So some of the other stuff you've got on I recommend staying in the state park. Oh, out in Huntsville. That's actually where we were going to stay. I was looking, Don, at some of the camper sites and whatnot, and there are some that are a little sketchier looking than others. And state parks, you pretty much get the same thing no matter where you go. But so you do POTA stuff. So what are some of the cooler parks you've been to doing portable stuff?
I actually have tried to avoid the parks as much as possible. I do a lot of the state forest and recreational areas. I like backcountry. I like to be out where there is nobody.
So those places have a POTA designation, though. A lot of them do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's one not far from the house. But driving a Jeep, man, I like to just take that thing and go where a lot of people aren't willing to go. So get out, get some off-roading and some radio all in the same day. You can't beat it.
No, can't beat that. In fact, got a series coming up soon. I've been working on filming with it's an overland off-road group, Natural State Overland, and
Nice.
they go out to Arkansas and spend days out there doing it. And that's one of the things that I'm doing is ways to integrate ham radio into off-road stuff, because only like 3 of them have their ham radio license, and it's like some of the stuff that they could do. I mean, this dude's truck that I'm working with, man, he's got like a fold-up mast for his dual band radio now. He gets he parks and he's like extends out and it folds up, and he's like got an antenna 30 feet up and crossband repeater and stuff.
I'd say, beyond just ham radio, APRS would probably be the most beneficial thing to an off-road group like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've been talking about is, and that's like, for example, with the ICOM radios, you can send coordinates and stuff when you talk on, do the DPRS or whatever that is on theirs. Glenn Strecker said they're going to try to do a ham fest near New Orleans in October. I will be impressed if that happens, Glenn. Just from what people are saying as far as the way schools are going to run.
Well, and just the way things are, trending right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was up at school today, and we got our marching orders for how things are going to happen. And then he said, but that'll probably change tomorrow. So, they've changed every single day. And, so it'll definitely be a challenge doing ham radio stuff. I'll actually get to do it twice, because I'm going to see like half my kids on Monday, Tuesday, the other half on Thursday, Friday. And so I'll have to teach all my my stuff twice. But all right. So let's see. Anything else that y'all have for questions in there? Anything else you want to throw in about Raspberry Pi or just ham radio in general or whatever? We've got a few minutes left, so let's scroll back up, see what we got.
I don't see anything that we've missed.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. I know I missed some up near the top or some comments down there. Tio, you guys synced your haircuts. How cute. Yeah, we planned it that way, Tio. All the cool people have no hair. That's just the way it goes. Yeah, I don't think we missed any of them. So, do you have a preferred Pi case? Is there a case that you like better? That's from Josh. I mean,
that's like trying to find the perfect backpack. It just doesn't exist. You find one and you like this about it. You find another one, you like that about it. No, I've not found a perfect case.
Yeah, I know that
for one.
For these things, when I bought some of them for the classroom, I got the little, you can buy the little accessory kit, Cana Kit, I think is one of the brands and it comes with a case and an overpriced SD card and stuff like that in there. But as far as, some of the cases, and I don't know, how hot can these dudes get? 'Cause some of those cases, when this sucker's up there running, and you go touch it, I mean, it's pretty toasty on top. Is that something that needs to be considered?
With a Pi 3, I never ran a fan on mine. With every Pi 4, I have included a fan. They do run a little bit hotter, and the fan doesn't draw enough extra current, even when I'm running on batteries, for me to be concerned with. So I would recommend on a Pi 4, go ahead and get the fan if you want to do that. Going back to the case, I'm trying to think of that new one. I haven't bought one, but they look really good. I believe it's Argon. It's a new metal case. I'll see if I can find that.
But there's a K8MRD says the best Pi case is the case you have with you, which I guess leaves me out. I don't have a case with mine on me. Yeah, he said. Mike said it's Argon 1.
Okay.
And then Smoking Ape threw in Viltros. So, and then Abe said you need a fan with the 4. So, is that? I'm assuming those. I'm gonna. Well, if I'm gonna get the 4 for the same money, or the 2 gig 4 for the same money as the 3, I need to go ahead and build in the cost of a fan too.
Yeah, they're like $4.
Okay. So.
If you buy a whole starter kit, I mean, everything all in, an adapter for your SD card, your micro SD card, your Pi, a case, a power supply, they're like $89.
Okay. So, and that's one thing I definitely learned is not all power supplies for these are created equally.
No.
So, you look at them and, it's got the little micro USB plug on the side. So a lot of folks think, oh, I can just plug that into my cell phone charger, whatever. But not all of them will actually power that thing correctly. It'll power it up that the lights start blinking and get you frustrated. Don't ask how I know this. That it'll get you frustrated that it doesn't seem to be working. And then you take out the one that actually plugs into with the wall wart to the wall, and all of a sudden, voila, it works. So that's one thing I want to make sure I point out. If you go here, one of the few things I know about these is not all power supplies are the same there. Glenn Strecker said Canna Kits has good sets, but
and the Pi 4 has gone to USB-C for their power cable.
Yes, I did read that. So, which changes that slightly or not. All right. Oklahoma Ham Radio. I do the heat sinks and fan personally. What do you mean personally? You just stick your own on there, or you don't buy them from a kit, or what? I'm not sure what.
I think he's just saying that's the way
that's
he
what
runs
he does.
his.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, is with heat sinks and a fan both.
So, but yeah, that would be the only other concern I would guess would be how hot they get, because I know, I had this thing, and all I had it doing was it was on a monitor, and it was showing my Pi-Star traffic. I just had it logged into my Pi-Star traffic, so the kids could see all the different places that were coming through Pi. Even though a radio wasn't necessarily on, I wanted them to just see that traffic and stuff. And after about 2 days, that sucker was hot as a firecracker. So, but it could have just been something there. I don't go packing things up hills though. Now, yeah, that's the. I'm gonna try to put one of these in my POTA kit. So I'm gonna actually try to do some kind of digital thing next time I do that. All right, last chance for questions and whatnot, guys, because we're about to roll this one out of here. Mike or Ape or one of y'all, if y'all would grab Josh's link for his premiere he's got coming up in 8 minutes and drop it in there for me, I'd appreciate it. But wouldn't want the tape to come loose on the heat sinks and flop around in the case. So, but yeah, he said that he doesn't pack it uphill, so he just tapes it all together. But
if you're gonna do anything with POTA, I would go FT8 on the Pi.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do, because it's quick and easy, and there's not a whole lot of chat time to it. The problem I'm gonna have with that is my daughter likes the microphone, so she pretty much destroys me every POTA activation we get. So it's amazing what having a young female voice all of a sudden calling CQ will do, and the almost 50-year-old bald guy doesn't get the contacts, but that's okay.
Hey, wait a minute. What are you?
I'm just saying, if you've got my kid next to you, she's going to destroy you. I won't say cheat, but I had to kind of, after she went and got in the bed in the camper, I went back out and did a late shift real quick so I could crank out another 100 contacts so I could beat her on the last one.
Now, wait a minute. Can you record a CQ message on your radio?
Yeah. I don't.
But just have her record the CQ message.
Yeah,
and when you're out and struggling, you can cheat a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. She might stop going with me then, and we can't have that. So, all right. So, folks, Mike's dropping the link in there for Josh's premiere. His premiere starts in about 5 minutes, and I think if I remember correctly, he's like trying to tune up a fire extinguisher or something like that as an antenna. I don't remember. He always tunes up weird stuff. Appreciate y'all being here though. Y'all make sure if you haven't already, head over to his channel. The link's down in my description below, and subscribe to him. And that's it, man. So, any last words, parting last words you want to say?
Thanks for having me on here.
No problem. Thank you for being here, and y'all take care, and we will see you on the air. Y'all go ahead and click that link for Josh's premiere.